Shalom Yisrael. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rechak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to those Akim that's preached the word in all truth and sincerity, along with the Israelite foreign brothers that are like the heathens. But the line of outside goes back to the nation of Israel, which the nation of Israel are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans through the prophecies and curses of Deuteronomy 28 chapter and throughout the Bible. So this is Brother Yakal, a month of the lesson, and today's lesson will be entitled E has always been for our downfall, which E is short for Esau, which Esau, Edom, are you so-called white people today, which you are the wicked according to the Bible, you know. I just want to go into it, and Lord willing, you brothers and you sisters out there be edified through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Shai, because all through our history, Esau, Edom, he has always been for our downfall, man, and we can just read the precepts to validate that point, and of course, secular history, and I want to start off with the book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 32. It says, the wicked watcheth the righteous and seeketh to slay him, and right, man, and this spirit has been on the wicked, on Esau, Edom, since the blessing of our forefather Jacob, because Esau wanted to kill our forefather Jacob, man, and because of the blessing, and that same spirit that was on Esau, which was the progenitor of the Edomites, are is on the descendants today, and they still want to come in, and they still come in that manner, wanting to destroy the whole nation of Israel, man, and I'm just going to go on two accounts of this, an example of Esau, being for our downfall, rejoicing at our downfall, man, and the first account was during the time of King David, um, here we go to First Samuel, the 30th chapter, and start out, verse 1, and I'm not going to read the whole chapter, but just, jump around, get to the points, but, I can read it on your own, But this is First Samuel 30 and verse 1. It says, and it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south, and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken a woman captives. So these Amalekites, which, they descend from Edom, they had, burned the city, It says, and had taken a woman captives, and that were therein, they slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. It says, so David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons, their daughters, were taken captives. Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. So David and the mighty men and stuff, it's like David and his army, they were all in mourning, man. It says, verse 5, it says, and David's two wives were taken captives. I had known the Jezreelites and Abigail, the wife of Nabal the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself and Yahweh his God, man. So everybody was mourning, including David, man, because it's happened to him. Now we go to verse 16 to 18, which these are the points. Verse 16 says, and when he had brought him down, and when he had brought him down, behold, they were spread abroad upon all the earth, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil that they had taken out of the land of the Philistines and out of the land of Judah, man. So these are the Amalekites rejoicing, eating and drinking and dancing. They rejoicing at our downfall, man. Which we go to read verse 17, and David smote them from the twilight even unto the evening on the next day, and there escaped not a man of them, save 400 young men, which rode upon camels and fled, man. So King David and his men, they had destroyed all the Amalekites, man, except for 400 of them. But the point I wanted to get out this account was that the Amalekites, which they descend from Edom, they were rejoicing at our downfall, man, at David's downfall for that short time, you know. But King David and his men, they end up coming and killing all of them except for 400 of them, you know. So that's just an example of Esau, always being for our downfall, one example. And the next example is during the time of the Babylonian captivity. When Esau was in cahoots with the Babylonians to take down the southern kingdom of Judah, you know. Because when you go to Obadiah, the first chapter, well, it's only one chapter, Obadiah 1 and 10 says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. And the day that thou stoodest on the other side, and the day that the strangers carried away a captive his forces," right, which the strangers were the Babylonians. Esau was just on the other side, just watching them. He wasn't helping Judah. You know, it says, "And foreigners enter into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou was as one of them, man." So Esau, he was in ally with the Babylonians to take us down. He was like one of the Babylonians, man, doing the same thing they was doing. It says, verse 12 says, "But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress," man. So this is going on. This happened during the Babylonian captivity, man. They was proud, you know. It says, verse 13 says, "Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity," man, because they also burnt the temple, the first temple that was made by King Solomon, which, I'm going to go into that account next. It says, "Neither shouldest thou have stood in a crossway to cut off those of his that did escape." Yeah, because Esau, he was, if some Judites did escape, almost escape, Esau was there to cut them off and take them back to the Babylonians to be captives. It says, "Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in a day of distress," man. So Esau, he was doing this, man. He was helping the Babylonians capture us, man, during the Babylonian kingdom. Because Nebuchadnezzar, he had besieged Jerusalem. And he was he was taking Judah, the southern kingdom, captive. He was exiling them to Babylon, man. Which today is known as Iraq. But let's get that precept, because the Edomites, they burned the first temple in First Ezra 4 and 45. Well, I start at verse 43. It says, "Then said he unto the king, Remember thou thy vow which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou comest to thy kingdom, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus did set apart, when he vowed to destroy Babylon, to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple which the Edomites burned when Judea, which Judea is the Greek word for Judah, was made desolate by Chaldees." Chaldees are the Babylonians. So, the Edomites burned the temple, man. They helped burn the temple with the Babylonians. You see? So they always been for our downfall, man. Never for our upliftment. And not to mention all the other accounts, during the Greek Empire, Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth, You know, the Roman Empire, of course, and even now, you know, the transatlantic slave trade, the Indian Removal Act, you know, the the Trail of Tears, you know, this all these massacres Esau did upon our people, man. But it all descends from that ancient hatred, man. And let's get it since I keep saying it. Genesis 27 and verse 41 says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing that wherewith his father blessed him, because Isaac blessed Jacob, you know, which Jacob's blessing was basically, to sum it up, was the kingdom of heaven, you know. You know, it says, and Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So that's that ancient hatred that the actual Esau had, which Esau is a progenitor of the Edomites, and that same hatred went on to his descendants today. And they still have that same hatred today, and that's why they hate us. You know, us so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You know, I'm in off a long one last precept in Baruch, because it's gonna be a point in time, man, when we gonna Lord willing party elect to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai. We're gonna be rejoicing at you Edomites downfall, man, which we already are on a low level, you know, because we see Esau kingdom going down with gradualism. But talking about, you know, when we get Lord willing party elect, we get beamed up, and we actually see the destruction of Babylon the Great and them chariots. You know, then we're gonna really see the downfall. You know, when missiles is destroying this place. Let's see, yeah, I saw verse 31 says, this is Baruch 4 and 31. It says, miserable are they that have afflicted thee, and rejoiced at their fall, right? You know, and that starts out with Esau, as well as the other allied nations that, according to Psalms 83rd chapter, that made it, you know, covenant with Esau, you know, to make the name of Israel to be no more in remembrance, you know. It says, verse 32, miserable are the cities which thy children serve, miserable is she that received thy sons. For as she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. All right, man. You know, and that's um it says, so for I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned to mourning, man. You know, for fire shall come upon her, which to her is Babylon the Great. You know, that great whore that rideth upon the beast. You know, um, for fire shall come upon her, which is, you know, the fire gonna be the nuclear missiles destroying America from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time, man. So that's gonna be the judgment, man. You know, they was, you know, they rejoice at our ruin, so we're gonna rejoice at at Esau's downfall, man, and rightfully so. Good riddance. So yeah, I can just want to make a list on that. You know, E has always been for our downfall, man. And Lord willing, I was edified. Until next time, Shalom.